there's a nerve, and he's right. I went back and looked at it. There's a nerve that can get pinched if you get hit just right, and it gives you drop foot. You can't bear weight on your foot. Changed my deployment date like 3 different times. So it was initially like 3 weeks after the fight. Then it got moved to 2 weeks after the fight, and then they moved it to the day after the fight. And the promoter knew. He's the only. I talked to the promoter about it. My coach and family knew. Nobody else knew. I wasn't really going to say much. And the promoter asked me. He said, "Hey, man, we can stop it. We can. That's obviously a circumstance you can't change." And I was like, "No, we're gonna scrap it." And it was a good fight. I mean, he cut me up bad. He beat me up pretty good, and it was just one of those things that mentally I just wasn't there. My little boy was at cage side. Family was at cage side. And honestly, out of all the fights, I mean, together I probably have close to 30 fights, amateur and pro. That's the only one I don't really remember. And he beat the snot out of me. I ain't gonna lie. I showed up for duty the next day, and I had stitches and everything all over my face. And the sergeant there, that when I checked in to get my barracks, he just kind of laughed and asked me if I got jumped at the airport. But no, that was that one. Then I came back, fought little Danny Flick after he beat Michael Billups. Who was next? Then I fought Dalton Goddard in Oklahoma City. TKO'd him in the first round. And then got called up to go fight Stephen Wynn in Wichita in April last year. That was a big fight. Yep. That was like a career changer for me, because that was the first fight I ever signed going in that everybody said, "You're going to lose this fight." And it lit a fire under me, because he had never been more than 2 minutes into the second round or something like that. And we scrapped. It was we were the main event at EFC there at the Kansas Star Casino for Rickles. 4 minutes and like 40 seconds into the fourth round, he clipped me behind my left ear, and it didn't hurt, and it just wobbled my legs enough that he could jump on me. He landed 2 or 3 punches, and then the ref stopped it. I mean, we were both pretty dead exhausted. He had a hematoma above his eye about the size of a softball, and I was pretty gassed out. But we beat the snot out of each other, and then hell, he went and fought for Dana White's Contender Series about 6 weeks after that. So we had some good scraps there, and then fought Ben Vasquez after that. I kind of talked about that fight. A lot of people saw it was on UFC Fight Pass here at River Spirit, and he threw Frank, kind of a funny story, because he threw a leg kick about 7 seconds into the fight, and it hit me behind my left knee, and it didn't hurt. I didn't think anything about it. But the second I leaned forward on that leg, my leg collapsed and gave out, and I kept falling, and I couldn't figure out why. And so eventually I backed up against the cage and waved him on, and he came in, and we engaged, and I got him down and sat on his chest, and I said I hit him 60 sometimes to 20 times. I mean, I beat him up pretty bad, but I didn't finish him at the end of the first round. And then in between rounds, the doctor came out, because I couldn't stand up and hold my weight on my left leg. He wouldn't let me fight a second round, and so they stopped the fight. And afterwards, myself and Dr. Shonaway and coaches, and we ran back. We just couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong. Yeah. And Frank Mir was there, and Frank's a super good guy. He talks to everybody that fights, but he came back after me, and I'm a doctor. Hell, I've been practicing for a few years now. Shonaway's been a doctor for 20 years. We could not figure out what's wrong with my leg. And Frank comes up to me, leans over. He said, "When he kicked you, your foot went numb, didn't it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Trust me," and he did. And I play-by-play, you can hear him talk about it. He said, "There's a nerve," and he's right. I went back and looked at it. There's a nerve that can get pinched if you get hit just right, and it gives you drop foot. You can't bear weight on your foot. And that's what happened. It's just a freak thing. And I wasn't able to stand and bear weight, so I lost that fight. And then technically lost it. And then the next fight was Xavier Siller. It was the last second fill-in. A tough kid. Very tough kid. Lost a split decision that I felt could have gone either way. And had some stupid health things pop up from that one too. But no excuses. Just didn't get the job done.
Comes with the territory the injuries do.
You're absolutely right.
My old boxing coach, old Cecil Pettigrew, over on Team Lethal. Cecil always told me, he goes, this is the hurt business, man. He goes, you're never going to be healthy going in there.
You're not. You're absolutely not. I tell you, I've been real fortunate, man. Out of all these fights, the only fight I've ever really been cut was that Solo Hadley fight.
Mm-hmm.
I've been beat up training and getting ready for fights. I mean, it's just part of the game.
Yeah.
But in the big picture, I've never really had injuries in a fight, except the drop leg deal, because there was, and you go back and watch that fight, you'll see me roll over that ankle repetitively because I can't feel it.
Yeah.
And I ended up tearing some ligaments and doing some nerve damage in my foot then. But most, 90% of the time, I haven't had any injuries, and it's just normal wear and tear. And plus, like I said, I'm getting old, so that part catches up with me a little bit.
Now, being the doctor side, does that benefit you a lot, like in the training and in like a lot of fighters don't know when to shut it down, and some coaches don't shut it down for the fighter. You know what I mean? Like, is there a point where you're like, oh, I know this is a little bit worse than what someone would say? Oh, it's just a tweak. Oh, it's just this. And you know what I mean. You get that. You see coaches say that to people all the time. Oh, it ain't that bad. But like in your mind, you got the little bit more in depth.
I'm good with it with other guys. I suck with it it's myself. But I know exactly what you mean, and it's hard sometimes to dial folks back. And me personally, for like when I wrestled in college, and now I have like a mental block. So to give you an example, like I sparred this morning for an hour, some at Thunder Kick, and we got some good. I mean, we got some good scraps in. This evening, I'll do something. I'll get on my rower. I'll get on my assault bike. I'll go for a run, just because I have that mental block that if I don't do something, I'm behind.
Absolutely.
But on the flip side of it, man, I've learned as I've aged that I have to do things the right way, and I've surrounded myself with people that know how to dial me back a little bit to do that recovery day when we're maybe just going through motions, not so much explosion and not so much power. I wear a heart rate monitor all the time when I'm training, sparring, grappling, doesn't matter, and I watch my zones. We measure how long it takes my heart rate to come back down to 110, 120 from 180,
Yep.
Hell, I even measure pulse oximeter on my fingers now just to see where my recovery times are at.
And that's the big key. That's such a big key that people don't look into, is the recovery part. They just look at the go part. You know what I mean?
The go part and the nutrition part, brother. I can't even tell you the number of guys that I talk to, young guys, and they're not ever, very rarely are they from my gym. Like today, we had some guys come over from prior to Thunder Kick, and I was able to work with them, and we had to, I see guys everywhere. Like, nutrition is such a big deal. And so many of these guys do this like the old school wrestling diets, man. They'll starve themselves and dehydrate themselves. And, you and I had talked, like I cut a ton of weight, but I feel great when I do it. The last 4, 5, 6 pounds usually kind of suck. But on the flip side of it, I put it all right back on within about 10 hours. The nutrition and the recovery is everything, especially with MMA and boxing, because like man, you can't get kicked and hit repetitively without developing some injuries.
Absolutely. Now, I when I boxed, I had the easy route. I was a heavyweight. we just had to have the.
It says that heavyweights you can always extend their career a little bit.
I agree. It's because we don't drain ourselves out. You just got to be in shape and stay in shape. You know what I mean? And you fluctuate 5 to 10 pounds depending on how you're eating. Because we're big dudes, we naturally pack on stuff. So that was a joy of it. When I boxed. I don't know if you know Mo Brown.